As summer approaches, Australia is preparing for the annual bushfire season. Last year was unprecedented, with communities engulfed in flames. The impact on wildlife was horrific, with nearly 3 billion animals killed or displaced. The koala among the hardest hit. Roger Maynard has more.
It's breakfast time in the koala pen at Sydney's world-famous Taronga Zoo. Early morning sees this much-loved marsupial at its most active. But as head koala keeper Laura Jones can testify, they're not easy to please.
Yeah, koalas are actually very challenging to look after. In some aspects, because they sit in trees and sleep all day, you think they're easy. Provide a tree, put some leaves in it. But the feeding part, the leaves, is where it gets really complicated.
In fact, the koala can only eat certain types of eucalyptus leaves, but food isn't the only problem. The fear is that zoos like this may one day be the only place to see a koala, as the population in the wild is destroyed by loss of habitat, disease, climate change, drought and bushfires. This is the grim reality of the fires. Here at a koala hospital in Port Macquarie, north of Sydney, veterinary surgeons battled to save victims of the flames. Such heart-rending scenes were shown around the world, prompting a global outpouring of grief and raising many millions of dollars to help save the animals. Overall, an estimated 480 million mammals, birds and reptiles died in the most recent bushfires. Tens of thousands of them koalas, representing as much as 30% of the population. In some areas, as much as 80% of koala habitat was destroyed. It was one of the worst natural disasters in Australian modern history, and according to most scientists and koala experts, there's little doubt about the cause.
It's called climate change. I don't think you have to be a scientist to work that out.
It's not really that climate change is causing bushfires per se. We've always had bushfires in Australia, but climate change is making bushfires worse.
And in Australia, climate change had led to a drought, and it was those drought conditions that made the bushfires particularly severe in this case.
But while bushfires and climate change play a role, there are other factors such as logging and urban development which have led to the loss of the koala's natural habitat. Kate Fairman chaired a recent New South Wales government inquiry into the koala crisis and believes loss of habitat is also strongly linked to climate change.
We saw the devastating bushfires kill so many of our koalas here in New South Wales, so of course we have to tackle climate change, but koalas also need trees to live in. It's almost like a two-pronged factor, if you like, two-pronged approach. We need to tackle climate change, but we also need to stop clearing forests and protect their habitat.
While the loss of koala habitat can be blamed on many factors, it's not all bad news. Here at Campbelltown, the koala population is actually increasing, thanks to the efforts of an environmentally active local council, which has planted thousands of eucalyptus trees to feed the koalas which live here.
Koalas are an Australian icon. We're so lucky to have koalas here in Campbelltown, and we really want to protect them for years to come. We want everyone to be able to enjoy koalas in Campbelltown forever.
It's not the only area where koala habitat is being boosted by the local council and volunteer organisations. Here at Port Stephens, north of Sydney, a koala sanctuary is about to open, and to help finance the venture, tourists will pay to stay in overnight accommodation so they can watch the koalas up close. After all the gloom about the koala's long-term prospects, there is hope as long as Australia addresses the many and varied threats to this iconic species. And while climate change is obviously a key issue, the march of urbanisation and the subsequent loss of habitat will also need addressing. Roger Maynard, CNA, Sydney.